Hello there. You might have noticed over the last week there's been a real onslaught of news around policies and politicians, and that's really deliberate. You see, what tends to happen is for voters, they make their decision in what would see the next 4 to 6 weeks and what happens around there. And that's a really important time for politicians to speak to people. The reason for that is most people don't like to go and make a decision on the day for obvious reasons. But beforehand, they can have a chance to sit down, look at policies, and see what's on offer for them. So, this is a really important part of the election. And the kicker for it, like the way it starts, is usually with the billboards going up, which can't happen until 9 weeks before the elections, or 9 weeks in one day for some politicians, I guess. And the way that our media portrays everything means that you have a really high turnover of information coming through, but they will focus on one or two really specific things for a couple of days that they feel is going to get traction. So, if we have a look at some of the policy announcements from Labour, for example, that have come out over the last couple of days, because they're the ones that have dominated the news cycle, you're looking at things like GST being removed off fresh fruit and veggies, an extension of family tax credit, and an extension of paid parental leave to add 4 weeks for partners of people who have just had children. They're all really interesting policies. They're all designed to have a Labour focus, obviously. But the media is really concentrating on the GST one because it can play around with the edges. It can ask questions about what counts, what doesn't count. They can get a bit of mileage out of it, which means clicks, which means people are engaging, which means they can sell advertising. It's a whole big thing. And we're going to see this from all of the parties, policies coming through and information coming through. We might even see something like a fully costed tax plan from National, which, to be fair, I shouldn't be surprised we haven't seen it. They actually said back in May that we weren't going to see it until probably about a month before the election, which unfortunately then gives Treasury very little time to go through and be able to cost it like they can do with any political party, which is a weird coincidence, I guess. But speaking of national and taxes, have you noticed how none of the media has been chasing up on the fact that they had a massive shortfall in their budget for roading that they announced? It was billions because they used costings going back to 2015, 2016 that they didn't adjust for inflation. But that's not being dealt with by the media. They're not getting any mileage out of it. Instead, they're focusing on whether or not something like a packet of vacuum sealed beets is going to be covered under this GST reform that the government has proposed. And so it's really important for us as voters to pay attention to as much as we can over the next 4 to 6 weeks because that's when the information is going to be thrown at us thick and fast. Every party wants to be the one that gets the focus. Every party wants you to be thinking about them right then and there when you are making your decisions. So pay attention, look what's going on, do your research.